Hey there, welcome to Mac TV, where we believe that the transformation from manager to leader is a crucial one, and that true leaders change lives. So we're diving into the second video in our mini training series, and today's topic is all about setting clear goals and expectations. If you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is go to the description box below and click the link for your free guidebook that goes along with this mini training series. Now, if you're not new to this channel, then that's great because that probably means you have your worksheet in hand. So let's kick this lesson off with a quote. Ken Blanchard, a leadership expert, says that all good performance starts with clear goals. Clear goals and expectations is a must for improved performance. And it's true because goals tend to just motivate us in general, and the same goes for the workplace. There was a study done recently that showed that 70% of people want to have a goal-setting conversation with their manager, but that only 36% actually do. That means that a large number of people want to have clear goals or want to have that conversation with their manager. In last week's video, we talked about the importance of just gaining clarity around your role. Now think about just how relieving that must have been for you to understand now what success looks like. Don't you think that the same thing goes for your team? So here's a step-by-step guide on how you can set clear goals and expectations for your team. The first step would be for you to get clear on the objectives so that you can start with the end in mind. Now I know that sounds confusing, but I'm going to break it down for you. When I say that you have to start with the end in mind, I mean that you first have to get clear on what the overall goal is. So what is it that you're truly trying to achieve? So let's say that after your clarity meeting with your manager, you clearly understand that sales are low. It's a pretty popular one, so I'm going to use it in this video. So again, you understand sales are low and that the company's goal is to improve sales. I'm sure you understand that you and your team are part of the initiative to increase company sales. Well, here is where you want to ask yourself a series of questions to really dig deep into what it is that you and your team must do in order to increase those company sales. But when you do this, I want you to put on the lens of problem, not symptom. Now, this little nugget that I'm about to teach you right here will completely change the way that you goal set with your team. It's something that I actually learned from a brilliant CEO by the name of Keith Cunningham. He says that in business, many people focus on fixing the symptom and not the problem. So for example, when sales are low, oftentimes companies will look into hiring an SEO specialist or improving their ad campaign or changing displays, everything other than really trying to figure out why it is customers are not coming to the store or purchasing from them. So after reading this, I got to thinking that this kind of lens of thinking of problem, not symptom, is a crucial one when it comes to goal setting so that you're not spurring on the wrong type of activity. So when working with the end in mind to set your goal, I want you to apply this same principle. A lack of sales last year is not the problem, it's the symptom. And in order for you to increase sales this year, you have to find out what the problem is. In order for you to do that, you have to ask a series of really good questions. And so we're going to do this together with the example of low sales so that you can see how it works. The starting question that Keith Cunningham encourages us to use is the question of how can I so that I can? Now, the whole point of framing the question this way is so that you allow your mind to think about not just solutions, but what needs to be broken so that you can solve the problem. Here's an example of how that question might play out for you. How can I develop my team so that we can help increase sales for the entire company? That's just an example. Another question that you might ask yourself when you're digging deep to kind of find out what the problem is as opposed to the symptom is what are the possible reasons for this problem? Or in this case, what are the possible reasons for low sales? So here's where you would want to start by asking yourself a series of questions to uncover the problem. So you can start by asking yourself, is one possible reason for low sales because maybe my team members are not having conversations with the customers? Yeah, sounds plausible, but let's go one layer deeper. Why are they not having conversations with the customers? Well, it could be because they have a fear of selling. Okay, sounds plausible. Let's go one layer deeper. Why is it that they have this fear of selling? Well, could it be because they lack the training or the resources they need in order to have these conversations without sounding sleazy? Yeah, it could be. So on and on it goes until you figure out or uncover what the problem is. In this case right here, if we decided to stop the questions right there and we feel as though the problem is the lack of training, well then one of the team goals would be to ensure that all team members are trained effectively on how to sell, how to build rapport, whatever the case might be, so that they feel comfortable in their skin to approach customers and offer them value. Now here's the thing. I want you only to set 3 to 4 small yet challenging goals for your team, because people tend to feel really overwhelmed by big goals. And you want to allow your team to have some quick wins. And the best way to do that is to set small yet challenging goals. The next thing I want you to do is set up a staff meeting. And I do not mean by email, I mean schedule some time to meet with the entire team to go over these goals. Here's the reason why I don't want you to just send an email. You're a hands-on leader, and this is really important to you. You see, when leaders just send an email with a ton of goals, what they're actually communicating to their team is that it's really not that important, or it's just a checklist item on their list to get done, and they're not really invested in seeing the goal come to fruition because they're not allowing teammates to talk through or ask questions so that they can gain some clarity and understanding in order to reach those goals. So yes, you can send an email to set up date, time, and location, but I want you to have the meeting in person. Preparation is really important because I do not want you to get to the team meeting and just ramble on. I want you to have an outline in mind. So here's the outline for you. Start with transparency. And I would go all the way back to the beginning with your meeting with your manager, your clarity meeting. The reason transparency is so critical is because number one, it allows everyone to see the importance. And number two, when people understand the why behind something, it is much easier for them to make decisions when there's no one to instruct them on exactly what to do. Next is to clearly state the KPIs, including what it means if you reach those KPIs and what the consequences are to not reaching those KPIs. People need to understand what the consequences are. Wrap up by letting the team know that you would like to have one-on-one conversations with them to discuss what their individual contributions will look like so that they can contribute to the success of the entire team. Now, I would let them know that, everybody's contribution is most likely going to look different, but that each contribution is important, and that you would like them to come to the one-on-one conversation with their own ideas, thoughts, or feedback on the situation. Because remember, this is teamwork. The last thing I want you to do is to set up these critical one-on-one meetings. Now this one was a little bit tough for me. I fumbled with this for a while until one day another light bulb went off when I was really observing what my manager did with me. For months, I had to report on one number, and my personal number for success was 7. Now, there were a few things that went into that number, but I always knew whether I was on track or off track depending on where I was with that number. Now, how I chose to reach that number with my team was only limited by my own creativity. I had a whole lot of autonomy in this case. But the point is, I always knew where I stood. The light bulb moment came when I realized my team also needed a specific number or a specific KPI to help us both see whether or not course correction was needed or if they were on the right track. Now in my case, my team had a few KPIs. They had the conversion rate, the follow-up rate, they had the outbound conversion as well as their call grade. So they had a number of things that they were striving for. However, we always knew, both me and them, where they were in terms of where we were going. Now, it's going to look different for you and your team, of course, depending on what your goals are, but the point is that everybody on the team needs to have a number. So when you have this one-on-one conversation with your teammate, this is where you want to be discussing that specific number. Now, in that conversation where you're discussing that specific number, you need to help that team member understand how that number fits into the bigger goal so that they can understand that their contribution is needed. Once you have that conversation and the both of you are committed, you gotta write it down. In this document that you write down, a few things need to be very clear. Number one, the number needs to be there, the action steps that they must take in order to reach that number, as well as the resources that you are committed to provide so that they can do the best job possible. Now, the reason I say that it must be written down is because this is a commitment between the both of you and you want to make sure there is no misunderstandings. Now, if after the meeting you have like this gut feeling saying that, it's still not clear, please make sure that you have follow-up conversations to make sure that it is clear. Because there's a saying from Dave Ramsey that I love so much, which is that being unclear is unkind. So if you want someone to excel, you gotta make sure they truly understand what it is you're asking them to do. And I don't mean just have one follow-up conversation. You're gonna have quite a few, but at least in the beginning, make sure that everybody understands what's involved. Now that you have the more tactical things figured out, I want to address something that is very real that will start to affect you in some unexpected ways. Click on the subscribe and notification button so that you do not miss out on next week's video, where we will be talking about how you can overcome the new role pressure. Yep, we're talking about stress in management. So I hope that you found this video to be valuable to you, and thank you so much for watching. I cannot wait to see you next week, and in the meantime, keep smiling. See you next time.